Hey everybody, Stu Smith here going live. Let me know if you can hear me. So happy Tuesday. We are in week 4 of our spring training cycle. So that means very special week. Every 4th week, we do a running deload and we add some weights. So today we're doing leg day. So we had some deadlifts, some front squats, kettlebell swings and farmer walks, some hip hinge stuff, a lot of lunges, as well as some shorter distance running. So instead of running a hill day like we normally do, which accumulates about 6.5 miles of running mixed with hills and intervals, we only ran 3 today, but we lifted pretty heavy. So it's all good. Got these new shirts. Let me know if you like them. Cows and Cardio. It's my favorite cycle. I enjoy the cows and cardio cycle very much. In fact, I may even do a giveaway today if people are listening. I'm going to write down a number on this piece of paper. In fact, I'll do it right now. Okay. You guys can't see it. So I wrote a number on the back of this number. If you are this number, by giving me in the comments section your size of medium, large, or extra large. That's all I have. Medium, large, extra large. I will send it to you for free. So just do them one. If you're this number in pecking order, I will send it to you free. 1 submission per. So I think we only have 3 people listening right now. So that narrows it down a little bit. So anyway, if you're that number comment from the top, yep, all you have to do is say your size. So I will send a new one. I will send a shirt your way. So once again, all you got to do is print in your size in your comments section, medium, large, or extra large. I'll send you a new Cows and Cardio t-shirt. So, but anyway, while we do this, start gathering some people to listen. We did a pretty darn good workout today, mixing with some short runs, intervals with some lifting and calisthenics. All right, so I'm going to tell you right now to all right. Still haven't reached the number yet. Still haven't reached the number yet. Yeah, Joe, I don't have any of that size. Sorry, buddy. Let me see. 1, 2. Yep. That's all right. We'll keep going. All right. So I will say this. Matt, very clever. I'll let that one go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just to let you know, I wrote down number 5, and the way I count it, at the sizes I see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So Matt, I do have a large shirt for you. So that contest is over. Cows and Cardio. If you want to check it out, these are really nice shirts, by the way. Only bought a few of them. So just testing it out, see who really likes this style of training so much that they're willing to wear a shirt. So Matt, if you go to my Instagram, or you can email me, stu@stusmith.com, just email me your address and I'll get this out to you today. So that was exciting. I've never done that before. Could have been a little smoother, but that's all right. I'll figure out a better way to do that the next time. So, let's see. I wrote a cool article the other day, and this one was something I want you guys to read up on Stu Smith Fitness, especially if you're trying to go Spec Ops selection. So, what really matters in Spec Ops selections, right? And it was more of a article built around toughness, I guess is a better way to say it. But basically, yes, you obviously have to be physically ready, physically prepared, but you also need to be tough mentally, physically, emotionally, not let things phase you whenever someone's yelling at you or telling you you're the worst student ever, you don't belong here. You can't let that phase you. Yes, you need to take it in as feedback, not necessarily negative feedback. Take it in as feedback, come back a little more focused and determined the next day and turn your stuff around because that's all they're looking for. They want to see you handle negative feedback and come back stronger. They want to see you handle a failure and come back stronger. That speaks volume to your character, and it can be tested really easily in these spec ops selection programs. Unfortunately, a lot of people let it get inside their head and they can't process it properly, and it just winds up eating away at them to a point where they start saying, yeah, maybe I don't belong here. But as soon as you say that once, you're right, you don't. Right? You can't think that way. So that's a little bit more of the tone of the article. A little bit about building mental and physical toughness in there, sure. Durability, a lot of consistency that's going to be required. Seriousness, how serious are you really? This isn't a kid's game that you're about to endure. That's why I like to have a little more mature people going. Not only emotionally mature, but physically mature. You're actually finished growing. Um, and then quick learner. Quick learner under stress is a very big uh, piece that matters in your spec ops selection, such as when you're learning how to jump out of airplanes for the first time, or scuba diving, shooting, explosives, map and compass. All of these things are skills that you have to consume how to do them and regurgitate it in a not only a academic sense but also a physical sense, that you're actually able to perform them in the manner and the standard that they are looking for. So you have to be a quick learner and be able to learn under stress, which if you're quickly flustered, can't concentrate, can't adapt to learn, um, and duplicate the efficiency of that tactical skill, it's a tough journey to move on. Unfortunately, I've seen people actually get kicked out of training, or at least rolled for failing a scuba diving test, or failing shooting, um, failing handling explosive. Usually those are safety violations when you're handling explosive issues. Um, and failing map and compass courses, navigation tests. So it's not all pull-ups and push-ups and running fast. You need to also be able to learn quickly. So anyway, that's what that article's about. It's like I said, I like it. Got some good feedback on it. Land portage. What about it? Land portage is just you're carrying the boat on land, not on your head, but like a farmer walk. So there's handles on the side of the boats in first phase, and you can run with them down at your hip, or you can put it on your head and run. there's no good answer of which one's better. Both of them kind of suck. You're going to be doing it more on your head than as a carry. So, anyway, there you go. Yes, train legs. M117 or 117. Train legs for sure. I tell you what, let's go ahead and let me share my screen because I have a video ready to go, and we'll do. Yes, absolutely. Running in soft sand with a boat on your head is hard, and it requires strong legs, strong back, strong neck. Absolutely. Land portage, head carry, hand carry. There's two different methods, but majority of your time it's going to be on your head anyway. All right, so let's see what this guy is. I can't remember what the deal was with this one. Turn down the volume. It's messing me up my top arm, bottom arm, kick. This looks pretty good. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Yeah, I can't remember the issues that I had with him. He's got a couple little extra kicks there, but those are more like rotational kicks. Notice they kind of occur whenever he's pulling with that with a stroke. Top arm, bottom arm, kick, hold the glide. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Yeah, this is pretty good. I think the only thing, as I recall, it was just a little. It was a little slow, but he had responded back saying this was a meter pool. So 53, 54 seconds in a 50-meter pool is actually a yard per second because 50 meters is 54 yards. So whenever you're in a meter pool, swimming 54 seconds is actually on pace. So this is pretty good. I think one of the problems I had with this is if you notice, what may happen later in the stroke, like let's say 200, 300, 400 yards in, those little extra flutter kicks right there get a lot more. So no need to do those extra kicks right there. I think it's kind of a waste of energy. So just do one big kick, little scissor, or and just hold it instead of adding those little flutter kicks in there. Originally, I thought it was more like almost like a tied to your arm. Sometimes when you pull an arm, a leg moves. It just kind of balances you out. And those aren't really considered a waste of energy. But when you start adding little flutter kicks in there, because that's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, kick, 1, 2, 3, kick. So you can really start adding up your kicks in a 500-yard test by doing those quick little 1, 2, 3 flutter kicks, and it gets tiring. Tires out your legs for the rest of the PST, right? So it will affect your scores on the other events if your legs get too tired from all those flutter kicks. Any recommendations on nutrition to lose body fat? You know what? Eat less, right? In the end, it comes down to you burning more calories than you are consuming. So every day needs to be just a little bit less. So, obviously you want to eat well, good lean proteins, fruits and vegetables for your carbs, decent grains. But at the same time, the portions have to be set in a way that you're actually burning more calories than you are consuming each day. So that's about as basic as it gets. If you need ideas, I will put in something in the comment section here that I like, because here's the problem with trying to lose weight, is that a lot of people just starve themselves, then they don't have enough energy to train. I would rather eat a little more and train a little harder, and then, not overeat on the back end of those meals, but just eat enough to recover versus um, being exhausted and not being able to do my workouts. Let's see here. Other questions. What do you think about doing farm work or ranch work as a summer job? I think it's great. I did landscaping and I worked on a farm in a watermelon patch in the summers. And then I played sports, right? So we lifted weights at the high school right after these work days. And those were probably some of my best days, like 16, 17, 18 years old, as far as being really building a foundation of hard work and training and motivation and discipline. It all started right there. I'd highly recommend it. It can be life changing for you. I mean, I look back on my high school days growing up, and they definitely set me up for being able to do some of the things I did, endure some of the hardships that I had to go through training and just failure and you know figuring out my whole process of life and training. I think that's a great way to do it. If you can get some physical labor out there, go for it and then keep training afterwards, before it, whatever you got time to do. So is there any reason why the age limit for officer is higher than enlisted? It is not. I'm not sure where you got that information. Now, you can become an officer up until age 36, as I recall, but you have to already be a SEAL, right? So if you're an enlisted guy, let's say you enlisted at 25 with a college degree or without a college degree, and you got one, um, and you want to be an officer one day, you don't have to do it before age 29. You can do it up until age 36, if that makes sense. It's You can't be a civilian, want to be a SEAL officer at age 33 and get that. You're still 4 years over the age limit, which is 29. So age limit applies to both as a civilian trying to join the SEAL teams. So maybe that's your confusion, but that is what you're asking is not the case. Did you play any organized sports growing up? Yes, tons. Um, as a little kid, obviously played baseball. Um, that was my biggest organized sport when I was little league baseball. And then once I got to high school, I played football. I wrestled. I wrestled in 8th grade too. Um, wrestled. Um, did baseball for my first 2 years, and then they created a powerlifting team my junior year. So I quit wrestling and powerlifted during my wrestling season, what would have been my wrestling season. Got a letter for lifting weights. I thought that was awesome. Competed in powerlifting, but it screwed up my baseball, and I sucked at baseball after I did all that powerlifting in the winter. So I wound up throwing shot put and discus for track instead of playing baseball. So I was always busy. Where I grew up, you either were busy or you got in trouble. So it was my dad said, I either play a sport after school or go get a job. So I'm like, okay, easy answer. Tips to avoid getting Sipet buds. You know what? If you should do some Google research on that. Jeff and I also did a podcast on it as well. Tactical Fitness Report podcast. The biggest thing is make sure whenever you are getting fitted for your wetsuit, that it's not so tight that you can't get in that good glide position, right? Because what happens is a lot of people get in this good glide position here, and then it's like cutting off circulation. And then don't ask me how it happens, but it can increase blood pressure, increase fluid in your lungs. It does all kinds of weird stuff that I don't understand. Um, but that was one of them. Um, you don't want to necessarily overhydrate either before some of those swims. You don't want to be underhydrated, but you don't want to overhydrate either. Um, there's a whole list of them. In fact, you Google it, um, it's already a thing in the triathlon world. So if you take a look at that, it's swimmer induced pulmonary edema. Pulmonary edema is what it stands for, and it's just fluid basically gets in your lungs. You start coughing up blood, and then next thing you know, you got pneumonia at buds. That involves, if you try to push through that, you're going to wind up becoming a heat casualty because you can't respirate enough, so you just get overheated. Then you're really sick, and next thing you know, if you keep pushing that, you're probably going to get rhabdo. So now you got Sipet, pneumonia, rhabdo all at once, and you're done. I mean, you're going to spend the next 2 months just trying to heal and then try to get back in shape, and it sucks. So as soon as you see yourself coughing up blood, you need to let somebody know. So there you go. Good question though. Like I said, we've done a lot on it. So if you just take a look at some of the YouTube videos or tactical fitness reports on site, that might be a good place to start. Your 45-day plan helped me lose weight, build muscle years ago. Life changing. Oh man, thank you, Milos. That's a fun one. 45-day plan is a good beginner plan. Um, it's not that difficult, doesn't take a lot of time, and it's has a nice steady progression in it. Good cheers to you for doing it. I'm glad it worked. Let's see here. A few more questions, then we'll do another swim video. What are type of guys that become SEAL? What's their psychology? Good question. It's a little bit all over the place, to be honest with you. They are tough mentally, have been pushed pretty hard in their life in some way, have built some resilience, emotionally, don't let things get to them in a negative way, like especially like negative feedback. It's kind of above my pay grade to really psychoanalyze who graduates buds. But I have written a couple articles on those types, and if you ask that question to Google, you might be able to find not only some of my articles, but some of the psychology articles that are actually they've done studies on the type of people who graduate these types of trainings. So, in fact, there's some really good ones, some good studies out there too. Everything from polypeptide Y, vitamin D, so I mean, there's all types of weird things that reasons why people have higher this, higher that to be able to endure stuff. But like I said, it goes beyond my pay grade. I don't really know. I've done a couple articles where I interviewed all these former SEALs, and I was basically just asking them, did you think about quitting? And every one of them, to the person, never once even considered quitting was an option. Literally, like I can say the same thing. Just wasn't even an option. Even when I was cold and tired and kind of in pain and sore, and it just wasn't an option. So hope that answers your question. Great question though. Any book recommendations, any genre? I'm just looking for something new. Did you see me do a podcast with the guy who wrote the book, um, Water Beneath the Walls? It's really good. In fact, I am going to share my screen here with this because this is one of the best books I've read in a very long time. You can obviously get it up on Amazon. Um, so here, let me share my screen real quick. I just want to show you this um, picture of this. Highly recommend you check out this. So this is Water Beneath the Walls by Ben Milligan. The Rise of the Navy SEALs. It's not only the Rise of the Navy SEALs book, it is a complete history of special ops in the United States, starting pretty much after World War One, and then the rise prior to World War Two and after. Really good. Highly recommend it. That has been one of my favorite reads this year. And I've read a few more physiology books. Read one on breathing. I just don't have them near me. I used to have my bookcase behind me. Now I don't have my bookcase, so I don't have the books here. Oxygen Advantage is a real good one. I like to reread that one every now and then, just because there's so much in there on breathing that can be very helpful. What do I think of Brad McLeod? I like him. I've talked to him a few times. I don't really understand, like, I don't know his training methodologies, so I can't say yes or no. And I wouldn't, I have a way to train. I'm sure he has a way to train too. That's effective. So I don't knock anybody who's in the training business. I don't knock any former Navy SEALs. It's just not what I do. So if you're looking for negative feedback on somebody, you're not going to get it from me. I think all former SEALs are perfect to a degree. Does cold training at home also help you with buds? Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I wouldn't do it too much. I mean, the thing is that buds, the water temperature is never going to be below 55 degrees. So if you got a bucket of ice that's 35 degrees, what's that training you for? I don't know, not buds. Um, so, ground temperature water is typically pretty chilly. Bath water, right out of the cold water with no heat, that's chilly enough. Um, cold showers are chilly enough. Um, so just be careful with it, because you start doing it with ice. Now where your potential for hypothermia is increased, and you can die from that. So I would avoid that, obviously. Um, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting cold to the point where you start shaking to stay warm, but you don't want to go past that too long, because once you stop shaking, yeah, that's when it starts getting real serious. So, as long as you're shaking, your body is trying to produce body heat, but when it stops, it's given up, and you're just going to go downhill real quick into hypothermic temperatures in your body, and things just start shutting down. So, as long as you're shaking, that's good, but you don't want to do it for too long. I don't think it's necessary all the time, but like if you get into a pool that's even 80 degrees and you stay in there for 4 or 5 hours, I promise you're going to be cold. You're going to be shaking, especially if you're not moving. What would you say for someone aspiring to become a SEAL officer and has 3 to 4 years to prep? Start working on your weaknesses now. That's plenty of time. I would say I probably, 3 to 4 years to prep. So it depends, are you trying the Naval Academy, or are you trying, through ROTC, or you're going to a regular college, and this is going to be during college, and you're going to try OCS. Are you post college? All of these will have different answers to how you do it, but the foundation behind it starts off with this: discover your weaknesses by assessing them, take a PST, do some certain lifts, do some longer runs, some swims, some rucks, get a timing down there, see how well you can tread. All of these things will give you a couple of answers to your muscle stamina, your endurance, your strength, your water confidence, your the techniques that you use in the water to float, to swim, to tread, to swim underwater. Um, and then obviously work on those weaknesses throughout those years. And my suggestion, if you have that amount of time, it's perfect amount of time to get on a good seasonal tactical fitness periodization program. Just the method that I use, like, spring training, it's mostly calisthenics and cardio with some block periodization. This is pure calisthenics and cardio. If you really need a foundation in training, this is a good one. Complete Guide to Navy SEAL Fitness, obviously. That's mostly all calisthenics and cardio. Um, you can also advance it up into these level workouts after 12 weeks to buds. These are just newer, probably different. Maybe some events may be a little harder. There's more rucking in that one. There's no rucking in Complete Guide to Navy SEAL Fitness. So there's some advances that, some of the newer ebooks have compared to some of the older books. Not that the older books are outdated, it's just not a full representation of what all you need to prepare for. And because that answer really depends on your weaknesses. If you're an endurance athlete, probably need to get in the gym and do a lot of calisthenics and lifting. If you're a strength athlete, you don't need to get in the gym at all. You need to be doing calisthenics, running and swimming and biking, and probably less running depending on how big you are, and do a little more non-impact cardio just to get used to the aerobic conditioning required for running and swimming without all the impact of running. So anyway, a lot of answers there. If you email me, I can definitely, once you give me some details of your athletic history and your present scores, I can give you a better, um, uh, more guided recommendation. Best SEAL ever to serve. You best SEAL I ever served with. Good question. I tell you what. There's so many. There's some Master Chiefs that were just incredible. I remember being 24, kind of a brand new junior officer in the teams, and there's this 38-year-old Master Chief who's pretty much been a SEAL for almost 20 years now at that point. And he was just such a stud. And I mean, it gave me hope for my 30s, if I could be like him, you know, um, that was something. His last name was McCullough, Chuck McCullough, DevGru guy. I mean, from the 80s. I mean, just stud. Um, man, there's so many. I tell you an interesting story. The guy who relieved me at my job at SDV was Chris Cassidy, who came from the Naval Academy a few years behind me, and then he uh, was a SEAL at SDV. Then I think he went to SEAL Team 8, maybe. Can't remember what team he went to afterwards. Did some time in Afghanistan, and now he was an astronaut. I think he's just retired from the Navy and being an astronaut, but he spent his last, I don't know, 15 years in the Navy as an astronaut. So he's something special. You don't see many astronaut SEALs. So I don't know. I could keep going. I could do a whole show on this one. I just need to think about, the people that I worked with. that went on to do great things. Thank you for all you do. I was wondering if you ever dealt with hip flexor pain when running. Yes, mine's been killing me doing sprints. You know what? Here's the problem. I have found over the years, and this was also in my 20s, when I injured myself, it was from doing a list of things. One of them was sprinting. That means 100% fast sprint. Other one was lifting too heavy, hurt myself. Was doing too many reps over time, led to some tendonitis. Doing too many miles of running in a week, led to some tendonitis or foot pain or shin pain or things like that. So pretty much it's, sprinting, lifting heavy, too many reps, too many miles. Um, so my new saying when it comes to sprinting and even lifting heavy is 80%'s the new 100%, especially if you are, currently serving where you can't get injured. If you do get injured, you're not going on the next mission, or you're preparing for a certain selection program where if you get injured, you can't train for a month, doing a certain activity. Um, so yeah, get your 80% to a high level so it is considered above average, but always leave one or two in the hole if you're lifting. Always like pull back on the sprint if you're sprinting. And I promise you, you will save yourself some pain in the hips. There's two places I get injured when I run all out, and that is my hip flexor and my hamstring. Um, you know, that hip flexor is probably going to affect your swimming with fins, probably going to affect your kicking without fins in the pool. So there's a lot that injury can interfere with. Um, I be honest with you, I don't have a good answer. Rest, massage, um, anti-inflammatories, you know, and if it hurts after a week, I would probably maybe even consider, seeing a physical therapist, see what they can say for it. So sorry about that. Does your U.S. Marine Corps PFT book have updates for the plank that is now going to be mandatory in 2023? I don't know. I think it does. I know I updated it recently, back when the plank was an option to the crunch, and back when the push-ups were an option to pull-ups if you didn't want to score 100%. So my answer to that is, even if it's not, I will probably update it in such a way. But when you see crunches and you don't have to do crunches anymore, just replace that with a 2-minute plank or a 4-minute plank, whatever. That's an easy fix. Anyway, these programs aren't personalized programs. So you may have to personalize some of them to fit your abilities, fit your facilities, equipment, testing needs, things like that. If it says crunches and you don't do crunches anymore, send me an email and say, hey, your book needs updating. We don't do crunches anymore. But I bet somebody does crunches in the Marine Corps. May not be for the Marine PFT, but it might be for something else. So anyway, good question though. I'm a Marine and Army veteran, and your SEAL fitness book got me through a police agility test at 50 years old. Hey, nice. Found it in the local library. That's awesome. That's fun, man. Good job. Thanks for your continued service. It is nice to be able to crush something at 50 years old. I just turned 53 this year and enjoy doing it. Hanging out with young guys, beating them occasionally. Hard to do it running, I will say that though. They have to be a really new guy for me to beat them. And everything has to be working in my favor if I'm going to beat somebody running these days. Let's see. What would you say the key difference in training between SAR and teams in regards to the pool? You're going to do a lot more training in the pool than you are going through buds. Yes, we do some events that are the same events at SAR, but you guys will spend, you guys will have pool time that's legit. A couple hours in the pool, you're doing treading, you're doing body carries, you're doing underwaters, swimming with fins, swimming without fins, you're doing swim PT with pull-ups and push-ups and bear crawls. So just get ready for a lot more pool time. You'll run much less, if that makes sense for you. What breathing books did you read? Did you find them helpful? Luke, I can bring them to you. Breathe is a good one. Dr. Belissa, what is her name? Let me see. Breathe, the Simple Revolutionary. Yeah, her name is Belissa Vranich, Vranic. Breathe. I've done a class with her as well. The other one was Oxygen Advantage, and that is by Patrick McKeon. I said, once you read these two, there's a couple out there. I think there's another one out there called Breath. So you got Breathe, Breath, and Oxygen Advantage. See, after this is by Nestor, James Nestor. It's along the same lines as Breathe and Oxygen Advantage, probably more so Oxygen Advantage, where there's a lot of nose breathing. Inhale, exhale out your nose, some inhale your nose, out your mouth, depending on what event you're doing. And his book is Breathe, The New Science of a Lost Art. James Nestor. So between those three, and of course you could read Wim Hof, that's another way to breathe, but once you start reading more than two, you're going to see a lot of the stuff repeated, in the other people's programming and how they do it. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about too many of those. And the biggest thing is just practice. Yes, we all breathe. We breathe every day, so we should get good at it. And there should be reasons why you breathe a certain way. You can breathe to calm yourself down, lower your heart rate. You can breathe to get awake and, be alert. So there's a way to breathe for better cardiovascular performance. Those are really important to people that are trying to crush running and swim tests. So yeah, I'd recommend reading some of those. Do any active duty SEALs smoke cigarettes? Good question. I have seen some. Back in the day when I was in, there would be some that smoked cigarettes. Most of them were like Vietnam vet guys that were getting ready to retire in the early 90s. After a few decades in the teams, they were smoking. But we did have this one guy, last name was Dobstaff at Buds. And he smoked cigarettes to a point where we're like, okay, this guy's about to take us on a run. But little did we know he could do 5-minute miles in soft sand and he would just smoke us. He was a first phase instructor back in the 90s and he wrecked us. Could smoke cigarettes too and run like the wind. So don't know. Sometimes that you see them out there. It's rare though when you see them. You see more people dipping than they do cigarette smoking. Any insight as to when the SOAS list is coming out? Nope, Scott, I do not have any insight to that. It typically starts coming out in waves. So you'll see a group of ROTC guys get it first. In fact, I've seen a couple ROTC guys get notice that this summer they're already getting filled up um, for SOAS. Naval Academy has not come out yet because they just had their second screener. So theirs should be coming out in the next couple of weeks. The OCS guys, they all had theirs turned in back in February, and that will start to come out any day now. I'd be surprised if you don't hear by the end of April. And that goes for most people. However, I will say this. We had a couple of guys last year not get notified till about 2 weeks before their SOAS date. So that went into late May. So it is possible that, as people start getting disqualified or getting changing their mind in the process or whatever reason that they can't make a SOAS date, there may be alternates that get later later notified. So how much time can added a double arm pull take off a 500-meter swim? Well, it depends. If you're good at it, it can take off a stroke or two off each swim, off each kickoff, which may save you some time, may save you some effort as well. But typically, I've seen people swim sub 8 without a double arm pull and sub 8 with a double arm pull. So my suggestion is you tell me that answer. You go take a 500-yard swim, do it without a double arm pull, and then do one with a double arm pull and tell me which one's faster. That's how you decide if it's going to work for you. Not because I say do a double arm pull. I just happen to be pretty good at double arm pulls, right? You may not be, and you may lose your momentum as you transition from that double arm pull into the stroke, like a lot of people do. I have told people not to do double arm pulls because their transition from that double arm pull into the stroke actually stops them dead in their tracks. So they lose all that momentum from the wall and have to recreate it when they pop their head up to inhale. So I just say take it out, and they're actually so much faster because they suck at breaststroke pullouts or double arm pulls. Good question, though. Once again, it depends. Do you have any standards that may gauge readiness for boats, rucks, and logs? Yeah, I have an assessment guide that takes that into account. If you take a look, in fact, I'm just going to put this article in the comment section. There's a big chart in here. If you take a look at that chart, there's a podcast that goes with it as well. It's got everything from your PST scores, your runs, and your swims. You got weighted pull-ups, body weight bench press, deadlifts, shuttle runs, standing long jump, weighted squats, chest carry lunges, hang cleans, rucking. All of these little standards in there are very helpful for you as a guide of like, if I can get to there, I'm solid. Because all those scores are guys who have gone on to buds and have made it. And there's a couple of like Army scores in there as well, that guys that went on to Army made it as well. So it's just really for all spec ops in general, dealing with load bearing activities, as well as your cardio and calisthenics issues too. Good question though. But yeah, it's on my assessment sheet. Check it out. 25, 5'11", 125. Okay. Hip and ankle surgery. Would gaining 60 pounds to 185 be too big of an increase before enlisting, considering the amount of running? Put it this way. You could say I'm 5'11". I like to say I'm 6 feet. I don't know. Some days at the doctor's office early in the morning, I'm 6 feet. Some days I'm not. So I was 5'11", 195. And in my heaviest at Buds, I was like 205. Right. So after Hell Week, I picked up some weight. But, I never failed anything, and I was durable enough to handle the boats and logs. At 5'11", 125, that's way too skinny for handling, any boats and logs, and cold. I mean, that's going to be cold right to your bones. I will say this, though. We had a guy in our class that was just absolute monster at all of 5'9", 135. Right? So he was a little shorter than you, a little bit heavier than you, but he was skinny, tiny. And when I saw him shake, I mean, he was shaking from his soul, like when he was cold. You could just tell it. But that dude was tough as nails, never failed anything, never quit, and I know he was the coldest in our group. So every time I was cold, I would look over at him and say, yeah, I'm not that cold. You need to put on some weight just to stay warm, regardless of performance. I mean, performance is going to help you with some of the weight training and all that, but yeah, that's way too light. And luckily at age 25, you may still be a hard gainer, but you're going to have to lift big and eat big if you want to be big. So there you go. Moses, let's see. Diagnosed with cancer in 16, tried all I can to get cured, no avail. Herbalist medication, kind of diseases include cancer. So doubted. Yeah, man, I'm not sure what you're asking here, man. Yeah. I don't know if you're trying to sell us some kind of cancer cure or you're asking for help. So I'm going to skip that one. Talk about the importance on individualized programming versus the seasonal cycle in your books to get prepared for buds. Well, you have to individualize it, or you can have somebody individualize it for you. This is a 3-to-1 block periodization model. It goes 3 weeks of calisthenics and cardio, run, swim, ruck, a lot of calisthenics for 3 weeks. Then deloads a little bit on the running, pulls back on the reps with the calisthenics, and for 1 week, you go back and you maintain some strength that you should have picked up during the winter lift cycle. That is a model of training. My seasonal cycle programs, that just happens to be my spring block periodization model. My other one, which is more of a kind of spring and summer is more calisthenics and cardio based. There are some supplemental weight programs in there if you need it. And then the fall winter is the same thing in reverse, more of a weighted rucking, weighted calisthenics or actual weights lifting program to build some strength, maybe even some mass, reduce the mileage a little bit, but increase some non-impact cardio to maintain your aerobic base. So it's just a way to train. Now, individualized programming is you making a determination what your actual strengths and weaknesses are. And for instance, you may not need a winter lift cycle when it's winter time. You may need an actual calisthenics and cardio cycle because you spent the last 5 years in the weight room and anything over 100 meters is long distance to you. So the last thing you need is to go into a gym and lift weights. You need to be running, biking, swimming, uh, whatever non-impact cardio that you can think of, just so you're not beating up your legs running too much. And you need to turn into a PT animal, right? Work on your muscle stamina so you can handle multiple sets of calisthenics. And that's if you're a strength athlete. If you're an endurance athlete, you may need a winter lift cycle in the summer because you need to get in the weight room because you're 125 pounds at 5'11". So, like that previous question, I would say get in the weight room and do a winter lift cycle in the summer. Start today. Whew. Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack in that question, as everybody's going to be a little bit different. So, yeah. What would you suggest, enlisted or officer SEAL? It's up to you, man. A little bit, the job and the training to get there is similar. The responsibilities are much different. Um, and that's the biggest difference. I mean, your duties on the battlefield are going to be a little bit different, right? You may not be necessarily the sniper, on a perch by yourself somewhere with your spotter. As an officer, you will not be. You're going to be directing what that guy is doing, talking to him. You're going to be directing where everybody is going and firing and taking their feedback in as possible options for movement, um, target analysis. There's a lot going on in this question. Um, Jeff Nichols and I did a podcast on the Tactical Fitness Report, and he came at it from an enlisted SEAL, and I came at it as from the officer side. So you should check that out. There's a lot to it. Um, a lot of people say you're not operational after a certain point, and to a degree that is true. You can definitely be operational longer as an enlisted guy. But at the same time, you know, operational also depends on your age and personal abilities. After the age of 35 to 40, things may get a little more difficult for you to do some of the operations, even if you're an enlisted guy, right? You might be more of in the training roles versus the operational roles, right? Maybe more of the command and control role versus the operational role. It really kind of depends on your strengths and weaknesses as a leader, as a senior enlisted leader, as an operator. All of those things are going to determine your longevity in the teams. All right, a couple more questions. And I got one more video I need to show you too. Would you advise a guy to train if he has zero energy first thing in the morning and too hungry after work, too sluggish to train after dinner because of digestion? Great question. My suggestion would be maybe to wake up a little earlier and have a little something to eat or at least drink that can give you some energy, some carbohydrates. Make sure you're sleeping well because that could be an issue. Um, as far as too hungry after work, my suggestion would be to have a snack about 3 o'clock in the afternoon before, 2 or 3 hours before your work is done. That way you won't be so low on the blood sugar levels. And then you just eat after you train and not have to worry about working out after dinner. The most I ever do after dinner is go for a walk. Like I'll take my dog for a walk or just go for a walk by myself, breathe some fresh air after dinner. I don't try to mix in another workout. I don't have to because I just spent 2 hours in the morning doing it. So sleep and nutrition are going to be your answer. Hope that helps. Let's do one more video. Let me pull this guy up here and we'll share this video here. All right. So kicks off the wall. It's got a good streamline. Goes right into the stroke. Now, if you look what he's doing here, this is really more of a almost like a breaststroke, but he's just side breathing. Only problem is there's no power in this kick and no power in that arm pull. So it's really slow. So this is a 50-meter pool, and he does this in like a minute 20. So it's like 83-second swim, which if you're going to be at a yard per second, you're going to be somewhere in a meter pool, you're going to want this to be about 54 seconds. So you're already almost 30 seconds off a pace. It's just because you're not going anywhere. Look at that. I mean, that arm pull, I mean, you almost go backwards when you pull your arm. So that needs to be more of a freestyle catch. This breaststroke kick is really weak. My suggestion is if you did not swim breaststroke in a previous life of athletics, you probably don't have the power needed to have a strong breaststroke kick. And that's this guy's problem. Like he probably just took lessons and the swim instructor taught him how to do the breaststroke kick. It's a good breaststroke kick, just not powerful. So you got to develop all these little muscles in here, right in here in the hips, inner thighs, in order to create a lot of power. And then that has to produce a whip kick from the knees down. You know, how quickly you can close your legs is going to determine how fast you are. Now, if you're a land athlete, you may actually have a better developed set of hip muscles to do scissor kicks versus a breaststroke kick. So for me, I teach whatever's you're comfortable with. Like former swimmers that grew up in a pool prefer to do a breaststroke kick. Great. That's awesome. You know, but if you're a land athlete and spent your life running, you know, whether it's sprinting or jogging or whatever, you know, your legs are going to be probably better developed to do a scissor kick than a breaststroke kick. And that may produce some more power for you in the CSS. But I just posted this one up on Instagram today and on TikTok. But yeah, see that arm pull there? That needs to be a much different arm pull. And it needs to be, you need to go to Google or YouTube and search freestyle catch and see exactly how you need to pull that top arm. Whew, that was a good one. You know, the good news is on that one, I will say, is that you definitely had the timing of the stroke down, which is the hardest part for many people. Now it's just fine tuning a little more power in that pull, a little more power in the kick. Hope that helps you. Thomas, thank you very much. Glad to do it. These are fun for me. What's the distance time of rucking and buds? You know what? There's not an event that is like the weekly 4-mile timed run at buds when it comes to rucking. Basically at rucking, you just have to stay in a pack with your class. If you start falling out of that pack, you're going to get hammered. And now you can be performance dropped for these type of things over time, but pretty much you're just going to get hammered and notes will be taken that you fell out of a ruck. So if there's a future failure, they can look at your entire record and say, well, you know, every one of these rucks, you never stayed with the pack. You were gooned every time. And that's something you will learn that you do not want to be a part of, whether it's a run or a ruck. If it's a group run, and let's say you're going to go run for 5 miles on the beach, soft sand runs, hard pack runs, a combo up and down the dunes and all that stuff. If you don't stay in your pack of a class, you're going to spend probably a good 20 or 30 minutes once everybody is done getting beat down in what's called the goon squad, where you'll be doing fireman carries up a berm, you'll be doing fireman carries and bear crawls and sprints. And eventually they'll get to a point where, okay, here's how it's going to go. If you win this race, 100-yard race in soft sand, you get to leave the goon squad and go back with your class who's already cleaned up and getting ready for the next evolution. maybe even snacking and hydrating. And you want to be one of the first ones real quick to get out of the goon squad. Otherwise, you're going to spend the next 10 sprints losing, getting beat more. And it sucks. Sucks for the next evolution for you, too, because you just spent a lot of energy failing out of a ruck. So that's where they tend to use the rucks. There's not necessarily a timed event that you have to master every week, like the most important 4-mile timed run, which is done weekly, and the 2-mile swim with fins, which is done weekly, as well as the obstacle course. Oh, okay, guys, this has been over an hour. I missed some questions here. And I apologize for that. If you want to resend them via email, go ahead and do that. My email address is stu@stusmith.com. Or you can DM me on Instagram, or once this video is posted, you can repost it on this comment section and I'll get to it. But I just don't have time to get to all the questions today. And once again, terribly sorry. Check out the new shirt, Cows and Cardio, if that's your thing. Got them on StuSmithFitness.com if you want to buy one. Limited time offer, just testing it out, see if they're popular or not. Let's see if if you have some videos you want to send me, and you can send them either by DMs on Instagram, or some people email them to me as well. Attach it. I don't need a big video. In fact, if you send me anywhere between 25 and 50 meters of you swimming, that is perfect enough for me to see what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and we can go from there. Happy to critique it for you. All right, folks, until next week, let's do this again. All right, folks, have a good one.